Chapter 1. Chick in the dark night, yet to leave the nest. Uchiha Itachi remembered very clearly the moment he became aware of exactly what he was. It was raining that day. Itachi had only just turned 4, and the rain, so heavy he had trouble opening his eyes under its weight, beat down mercilessly on his tiny body. Standing beside him, his father offered nothing in the way of sympathy or support. And Itachi himself didn't wish for any. Remember, this is a battlefield. His father's powerful words pushed through. The roar of the rain to pierce Itachi's heart. Battlefield. Not a word for a 4-year-old boy to fix in his memory. To say still less of the scene that lay before him at that moment, nothing remotely fit for a child's eyes. Bodies, bodies, bodies. Mountains of dead bodies as far as the eye could see. And not a single one at peace. The corpses had stiffened, with faces twisted in agony. In a few years, you'll be a ninja too. This war might end, but the reality of the ninja does not change. This is the world you will step into. His father's callous voice filling his ears, Itachi stood still and endured. If he relaxed his control, the tears would come spilling out. It wasn't that he was scared. It wasn't that he was sad. An emotion he couldn't put into words surged within him. He didn't understand why, but he felt such a tightness in his chest, he could hardly stand it. Soaking wet in the rain. His father probably wouldn't notice if he cried. Still, Itachi didn't want to. He felt that if he cried here he might lose something critical to his life as a ninja. So he desperately tightened his control over himself. But the tears came naturally spilling out. People with Konoha forehead protectors. Ninja from other lands. The countless dead bodies blanketing the surface of the earth had no connection to national borders now. All of them been unable to kick free of their own deaths as they struggled, mourned, writhed. Those anguish-filled faces were all the same, no matter which land the ninja were from. Not one among them had wished for death. And yet they had all died. Why? Because of the war. Father, Itachi heard his own voice. And then, for the first time, he realized he was shaking. It wasn't the chill of the rain. It wasn't a fear of the corpses. Rage made Itachi shake. Why did you bring me here? His father was silent for a while at the question from his young son, and then he began to respond, as if choosing his words carefully. You are a clever boy. Eyes still turned toward the corpses, Itachi waited for his father to continue. He felt a warmth on the top of his head. The palm of his father's hand. I wanted to make sure you saw this reality. Itachi frantically searched his mind for the meaning of the word reality. He was only 4. He didn't understand the difference between reality and fiction. Even so, he grasped the meaning of what his father was leaving unsaid. This is the world I will live in. That's right, Itachi. Ninja are creatures that fight. Never forget what you've seen here today. His father's voice led Itachi to rub his eyes. He burned the hellscape before him into his retinas so that he would never forget it. A warmth unlike that of his tears wriggled and squirmed within his eyes. The sensation, a wild wave of power flowing toward his retinas, was so terrifying he unconsciously closed his eyes. When he did, the wave slowly, quietly disappeared into the center of his head. His heart pounded madly, and his breathing was ragged. He took a deep breath and opened his eyes. Before him, the hellish world was unchanged. He gently pressed a hand to his chest. He felt like if he gave himself over to that power, he would stop being himself somehow. What's wrong? He didn't respond to his father's question, but simply stared hard at the sight before him. This hell might have been the world in which he was to live, but he had no intention of sitting back and simply accepting it. I will change it. It was a mistake to try and resolve things by fighting, for whatever reason. This world had to change. This belief became the foundation of the man known as Uchiha Itachi. Itachi never forgot that day. The end of this great war that swallowed up ninja from every land came several weeks after the day Itachi became aware of the meaning of his own existence. Later called the Third Great Ninja War, the conflict came to an end after an armistice agreement was concluded between Konoha and Iwa, the principal aggressors. Although the war had been proceeding favorably for Konoha, Hiruzen, the third Hokage, established a policy of reconciliation to bring an end to the fighting with an unprecedented offer to not seek reparations from Iwa. Advocates for the war opposed Hiruzen's seemingly weak decision, and to keep dissatisfaction in the village in check, he decided to step down as Hokage. This led to the selection of a new Hokage, and the hero of the Great War, Namikaze Minato, became the fourth. With Hiruzen's retirement as Hokage, the village inched toward recovery after the tumult of the war. Itachi had a clear objective: become the best ninja ever and eliminate war from this world. An adult might speak of such a grandiose dream with a laugh. But for 4-year-old Itachi, it was precious and irreplaceable. To achieve it, he would first learn basic ninja skills at the academy, take his exams, and be formally recognized as a ninja. This, despite the fact that the boy had still not been accepted into the academy yet. But he wanted to become a ninja as soon as possible, so he was training by himself. Home, Itachi quietly slipped off his shoes in the entryway and walked slowly down the hallway. "How was your day?" his mother Makoto called out to him when he passed the kitchen. At that moment, a new life was growing in her womb. Will it be "Oh little brother" or "Oh little sister"? At any rate, it would be Itachi's first sibling. "Were you training by yourself again today?" "Yeah." At this reply, sounding too grown-up to have possibly come from her 4-year-old son, Makoto turned around, holding her heavy belly, and shrugged her shoulders. "Is Dad in his room?" "He is, but right now's a little," his mother said, but Itachi was already stepping toward his father's room. After the day's training, he had a question about the way to hold a kunai, and he wanted an answer right away. Why should the fourth be Minato? The fierce voice on the other side of the closed sliding door stopped Itachi in his tracks. "You don't know who could be listening." His father's even tone. "Keep your voice down, Yashiro." "But I just can't accept it." The only name other than Minato put forward for the selection of the fourth was Lord Orochimaru. "Why did not a single person say your name, Lord Fugaku?" the man named Yashiro demanded of his father. In Itachi's head, Yashiro's face popped up. A man with narrow eyes and closely cropped white hair. Although he was older than Itachi's father, he served him as a subordinate. "It's just as you say, Yashiro. I cannot accept this either." "Inabi." His father spoke the name of the master of this new voice. Uchiha Inabi was a leading ninja in the Konoha military police force. His distinguishing feature was his long black hair. He was also Itachi's father's subordinates. Ninja from the other lands trembled at the mention of Wicked Eye Fugaku during the Great War. The head of the Konoha military police force. "That is my position in the village." "There's talk it's all the administration's plan," Yashiro shouted, and then spat out, "Village officials don't want the Uchiha clan standing on center stage. They said nothing in the village about all the work you did during the Great War, Lord Fugaku. Because of that, it was Minato and the Sannin, and even Ataki Kakashi, who has the Sharingan despite not being a member of the clan, who shone. If the people can make a fuss over Minato and Kakashi, then your name should also." "Enough." Fugaku's control voice cut Yashiro off. "My son is listening." Itachi winced slightly. "What is it, Itachi?" "He noticed me." "Ruki." Itachi gritted his teeth. Having no other choice, he pushed the sliding door open. Inside were 4 people: his father Fugaku, Yashiro, Inabi. And one more, a man with a dot on his forehead. A subordinate of Itachi's father, Uchiha Teka. "What is it?" "I wanted to ask you about Shuriken." "I'm busy right now." "Ask me later." "All right." He quickly slid the door shut as he spoke. The instant it was almost entirely closed, a crimson light grew in the eyes of the four men. Sharingan. The Kekakinkai inherited by members of the Uchiha clan. Returning to his room, Itachi recalled the air filling his father's room. And then for some reason, the battlefield he had seen with his father came back to life in the back of his brain. The very picture of hell, overflowing with evil intent and malice. The aura hanging over the men in his father's room was the same ominous air he had felt on the battlefield. What is father thinking? There was no one to reply to his murmured question. 2. 5 years old. Itachi could not have cared less about birthdays and all that. The annual event was at best nothing more than a milestone. Whether it was spent largely adrift or packed with a variety of experiences, a year was still a year. Just because the number indicating his age had increased by 1 didn't mean that anything changed. What was important was daily training. That steadily moving forward one step at a time was important, was how Itachi felt, but that year, something truly significant had changed and shaken his heart. That something was before his eyes at that moment. So? Mikoto asked, lying back on the floor. But he didn't respond and instead sat, legs tucked underneath him, staring at the creature laying before his knees. The tiny newborn baby seemed to be intently focused on understanding his situation, while his still unseeing eyes wandered around empty space. Itachi gently touched the baby's cheek. At the sudden stimulus, the infant twitched with surprise. Shocked by this reaction, Itachi pulled his hand away, while his mother giggled as she watched. Sasuke. The child's name. His own little brother. Uchiha Sasuke. Itachi gently touched the baby's cheek one more time. Sasuke. The moment he gave voice to his brother's name for the first time, something warm exploded in his heart. Different from the love he felt for his mother and father, a special, indescribable emotion. In the end, 5-year-old Itachi couldn't really put into words just what it was. But faced with this ephemeral life, a creature who seemed like he would shatter if Itachi even touched him, something like a masculine sense of responsibility did indeed come to life inside him, the feeling that he had to protect this tiny life. Take care of your baby brother, his mother said, and Itachi nodded. Fiercely, hand still on Sasuke's cheek. Itachi had trained non-stop since the day his father had taken him to the battlefield. Just 1 more year until his long-awaited start at the academy. His sole objective was to hone his skills so that he could be a ninja among ninja. Why a ninja among ninja? To rid the world of fighting, of course. Itachi simply refused to accept his father's conception of a ninja as someone who lived in the midst of killing. Were the ninja arts and chakra really only for fighting? Itachi was sure they were not. If you had the greater strength, you could step in between people fighting to stop them. If you were a ninja more powerful than the ninja at war, if no ninja, however skilled, stood a chance against you, then everyone would listen to and obey your commands. Itachi wanted to be that kind of ninja. He believed that if he was more powerful, more capable than anyone else, he would be able to stop even enormous fights like the last Great War. He had a goal, so his devotions were not difficult. A grove near his house was his training ground. Wooden targets were hung on the cedar trees in the cluster surrounding him. Each was about the size of a human head, with 2 black circles drawn on it. Itachi stood alone in the deserted wood, kunai tucked between his fingers. For in each hand, the 8 kunai were his weapons of choice. He closed his eyes and slowly pushed the air out of his lungs from the bottom of his stomach. As he crouched down, he kicked at the ground as hard as he could. His body danced into the air and flipped upside down. He held his arms to his chest, and then shot them out to both sides, and 8 flashes of light scattered in 8 directions. Bank! 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 The sound echoed all around Itachi as he landed. The sharp blades had pierced the centers of the targets on the cedar trees. Nice work. A voice came suddenly from behind him. Itachi swallowed his breath and looked back to see a boy with black hair standing there. He was clearly older than Itachi. As proof of that, the silver of a Konoha forehead protector shone on the boy's forehead. "How old were you?" the boy asked. Itachi didn't know his name, but he had seen this boy before. Another ninja of his Uchiha clan. 5. That kind of mastery of kunai at your age. You're really something, huh? The boy stretched out a hand. Uchiha Shisui. I know. Itachi. Military police chief Fugaku's kid. Itachi was confused by how friendly Shisui sounded. It probably showed on his face, since Shisui shrugged and opened his eyes wide. "I heard you were a strange kid and you don't really talk to anyone. You really are stubborn, huh? If you don't mean anything." "Well, I wouldn't say that." The smiling Shisui disappeared. Itachi's eyes chased after his aura. The sky. As he danced up into the air like Itachi had moments earlier, both of Shisui's arms flew out, and 8 flashes of light shot through the air. "Whoa!" Itachi opened his eyes wide in amazement. "How was that?" Shisui grinned as he landed. "I'm not too shabby with the kunai either, right?" New kunai stabbed into the surface of the targets on the cedar trees, immediately to one side of the kunai Itachi had plunged into them earlier. Naturally, these were the ones Shisui had thrown. "I've been watching you training here every day for a while now." He slowly approached Itachi, holding out his hand once more. "Let's be friends." Shisui's voice was warm, his demeanor naturally pulled Itachi in. Accepting the invitation, Itachi extended his right hand. Warmth wrapped itself around his palm. "Nice meeting you, Itachi." As he stared at the beaming older boy, Itachi was perplexed by his own behavior as he welcomed this strangely overfamiliar ninja. He looked up at the moon. Just me and Sasuke. His mother and father had gone out. He left the sliding doors open after stepping out to sit on the veranda, Sasuke in his arms. The moonlight was dazzling. The full moon, shining so radiantly that it nearly erased the light of the surrounding stars, seemed like it would fall from the sky. A gentle breeze softly stroked his cheeks. He furrowed his brow at the faint unpleasant smell riding on that breeze. Sasuke began to fret in his arms, perhaps sensing the change in his older brother, or perhaps because of the keen sensitivity of a baby noticing something out of the ordinary. Itachi stared at the moon in the sky. "What is this feeling?" Sasuke began to cry. There. Even as he rocked his baby brother soothingly, his eyes stayed focused on the moon. The wind blew once more, smelling like a wild animal. "I don't like this feeling. Why are Mom and Dad always out at times like this?" Sasuke began to cry even harder. This was definitely not the time for staring up at the moon. Itachi dropped his gaze to his adorable baby brother, a smile creeping across his face. "Don't cry, Sasuke. Your big brother will protect you, no matter what." Sasuke's cry changed from a scared wail into something sweeter. It was still almost as powerful, the faintest of differences in the strength behind the wail. Rather, the change was more in the baby's mindset, because he knew they were brothers. Something's coming. All Itachi could do was tighten his arms around Sasuke. End of part 1. Thank you for listening. Remember to like and subscribe for lots more.